Welcome everyone to another Money Honey show. Today I have invited somebody who can share with us what happens when you have such a successful career, but then you have to take that break. Now, I can't actually relate to this story in the sense that I haven't been through it myself. I don't have a family, I don't have children, but I hear about it a lot. I hear about, building a successful career and then having to make that conscious decision of taking a step back and managing, a family and raising children. And how do you get back into the role? How do you get back into it? How do you find your self-identity, right? How do you find yourself again and still feel like an awesome mum? Now, I love learning about this before I need to learn about this because I know it's going to happen for me one day. And I'll be very candid and vulnerable with you guys right here, right now. I know people are looking at me now that I'm married thinking, when's she having her baby? And I've got this fear that people are looking at me, and it's a fear because I feel like people might be thinking, oh, is she going to have a family? Is she going to step back from the business? How's she going to cope? And I don't know. It's something that is hanging over my shoulders, if I'm honest with you. So hopefully today, I will learn something. Maybe I will be inspired by this person who I've invited on the show, because I do want to have it all, right? I want to be 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐞, right? I want to have the body and the kids and the stage career and the Capri holidays that she has on a yacht. Like, I think there are so many women out there that maybe show the Instagram version of that, right? I've just explained 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐞, right? And we look at her and we're like, yeah, you're great, right? But it's not relatable. It's like, yeah, but you've got loads of help, you've got loads of money. So I really want to talk to the real people that are doing it, the people that I can see on a day-to-day basis, living proof of this. So without further ado, this money honey on the show today for you is the head of mortgage intermediary partnerships at Kensington and Barclays. So quite a tough job, and she is a proud mummy as well. So I'm going to ask her all about how does she do it, but I know she's ready to share what it feels, to have the mum guilt and all that kind of stuff. So thank you so much to Frances Cassidy. How you doing, Frances?
Hi, thanks. I'm brilliant, thank you. How are you?
Good, I love that. Yes, you are brilliant. I'm great. I'm really great, thank you. I really appreciate you being on the show.
I'm on the way.
I know that this is going to be a tough conversation because not a lot of people want to talk about it, but loads of people are going through it. So I'm going to allow you, just give us a quick intro for now. Like, who are you? What do you do? And why did you want to come on the show?
So interestingly, I know we spoke previously and said that I hadn't heard of the show. I hadn't heard of it. And one of the chaps in our team, Adam Sheldon, told me about it and said, this is brilliant. You should go on this. You need to do this, is talk about your story. And I was like, oh, okay. Money Honey. That's an interesting title, right? And so what I thought I'd do, I was going for a run in the morning and I went to Spotify and I downloaded the episode when you talk about what the podcast is about. And I was like, right, okay, women, honey mean. What does money mean? And I listened to it. I was like, I get it. I love it. So I started listening to some of the people that came on the show, and everyone had such brilliant stories to tell. And it was a lady called Sally talking about kind of the menopause journey. People talking about children, people talking about doing jobs in different countries and coming over here. So it was inspiring. And no one thinks their story is inspiring, and I don't think mine is at all. However, and maybe one person out there that it's relatable to. And I found through various things that I've done through mentoring kind of in our sector, that it has meant something to someone, and just having someone to talk to is really important sometimes. So that's why I'm here. And I said to you as well, my little girl's called B. So we call her B. And my first thought was when we had her, she's the youngest of two, and we called her Baby, and I was like, what's this little thing? What is she going to do in her life? What effect is she going to have on the world? So yeah, I love the bee analogy. It's great.
I love that, Frances. You are made for this show. I am so happy that there's just so much synergy there. And I love the fact that you highlighted different talks from the Money Honey show. Thanks for doing your homework. That's amazing. That you've actually discovered the true meaning of what this show is about. But whilst that was a beautiful intro about the show, what about you? Who are you?
This is the bit people don't want to talk about, but hence so I started in financial services. It's all I've ever done. I started, as so many people do, and listening to this podcast, nearly everyone has, as a cashier. So I kind of went into retail. I worked for 𝐃𝐨𝐵𝐿𝐸. It's my first introduction to like working life. And I loved it. I loved being part of the team. I loved having that customer interaction, which I think is so important in whatever job you do, was to interact with a customer at some point so you understand that process, that feeling. So I worked in retail, did various roles, mortgages. There wasn't advice need then, so you're just selling mortgages, and MPPI, everything else that came with it. So that whole part of the market. I managed teams and branches. Then I went on to the other side. So I went to the intermediary side, which is really interesting. I work for Countrywide, and it's brilliant to see those different aspects of the industry. Really liked that as well, but then found myself, and then that one was Principality, Building Society, so Welsh, Mutual Society, so very different to kind of other things that I've done. And I guess that the highlight has always been being part of a new team or a new proposition or something that needs change, understanding what that change is, and implementing it and kind of seeing that commercial objective through to the end. That's been really interesting. There's loads of stories I could tell you about that. And then I kind of I left the Building Society, came into Kensington Mortgages, so the specialist lender, so different to kind of anything I'd done. I know you were together. So the specialist. And then recently we were acquired by Barclays. So it's high street, the local company and banks. So this is where I find myself now across, of course, both France, which is really exciting.
Amazing. Yeah, that sounds like a lot has happened in such a short space of time. And on a personal note, you've even started a family amongst all of that as well. Yeah. So we're going to dive into that shortly, because I know you've got a lot to share on that. But I want to pick up on your point where you said, I don't know if everyone's story is so interesting and I haven't got an inspiring story. But then you quickly went on to say that, it could just be one person listening that takes something from the story. And that's exactly why the theme of the show is about the bee and the honey, because how I see it is, I was asked when I was doing my branding, I was asked, Roz, do you want to be the queen bee? And I was like, no, I don't want to be the queen bee, because I actually see myself as a busy bee, just like everyone else. Everyone is a busy bee, but together, like we're all working independently. So you're off, pollinating off, in your part of the meadow, and I'm doing my little bit. But then together, when we come as a community in our colony, we create this beautiful, golden liquid of honey. And I think that's how I see the financial services industry. So you here today may change one person's life hearing what you have to say. And that's what the show's about. If you ask me how many subscribers do you have, be like, I don't know. Yeah. Actually, I don't know how many people listen to the show. I know I should update myself on a daily basis. I know the rough numbers, but it's the people that text me privately that say, Roz, I just listened to that show, like you said, with Sally, or I just listened to that show with Kim, and I actually just plucked up the courage today to talk to my boss about me having hot flushes at work and I need to do something about it. And I'm like, yes. So that's what makes an impact. So let's see whether your daughter as your mini bee, or you, how we can make an impact today to a listener. Are you up for that?
I'm up for it. Let's give it a go.
Excellent. So I'm just going to go straight to it because you gave me permission to do so. So if you're listening to this, obviously be incredibly mindful and kind that obviously Frances is sharing, something very personal about herself. So let's respect that. But Frances, offline, you spoke about, you mentioned mum guilt, and you mentioned, you know, having a gap in your career because of starting a family. How did you find that? How did you navigate through that?
I guess the beginning was always a great place to start, right? So I'll start from the beginning. I think it was probably a good 6-7 years ago that we were really actively trying for a family. So many people have kind of gone through these times, if it's IVF, if it's just waiting for a really long time, whatever that was. So you kind of got that part of the journey. And during that part of the journey, particularly if it's a really long time, really start imagining what it's like to have a child and to have a family kind of longer. And then, amazingly, this thing's happened. You're pregnant. This is great. And it's been for me personally, it was a really long time before that journey. You have this baby, you have this expectation of yourself and everything that it's going to be. Then it happens, you're like, wow, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is different. This is hard. This is tough. And you're in a very different place than maybe you ever thought you were going to be. So we kind of give so I actually got pregnant during COVID. So my little boy Harrington is 2 now. So we had COVID, everyone's kind of at home doing their own thing. That was my pregnancy journey. Went and had him, which he had to do alone for all the hospitals and everything else. It was always lucky that I had a C-section, because it meant my husband could have been there for the actual birth, but so many people weren't in that position at that time. So amazing. We had him. It was a shock. I won't lie. It wasn't everything that I dreamed it was going to be. It's quite tough. It's so all-consuming. But we got through it. I think there's always a 3-month point for most mums when they're like, oh my God, I think I might get this. They're doing the same thing at the same time after 3 months. So I can work for the routine and a process. That's good. So when he was 6 months, or prior to him, when he was 3 months, I started feeling a bit strange, a bit funny. And I thought, okay, this is what you feel like when you're on maternity. And then turns out I was pregnant. And I didn't realize I was pregnant until I was 3 months pregnant. So then I was going through this, okay, I'm on maternity. I was supposed to be going back to work in X amount of months. Now I'm having a baby. I remember, and I'll share this, I was crying a lot. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm trained in. And I woke my husband up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, well, why did you do? I'll do that. It's just like, it's fine. We'll work through this. It's okay. And I remember looking over at the other side of the bed at Harrington thinking, how can he have a baby when I have a baby? But right, okay, we're going to do this. So I was pregnant throughout my maternity leave and had to come back to work at 𝐾𝐿, which is not the irony of them. Just realised I was set up when this very written that I told you I was pregnant. So I came into work for a quick day and I ended up there and filled up and pouring the drill into typing the new. And finally I did, and pre-action bring memory certain because when I saw a little bit shocked, but he was just like, this is amazing. This is brilliant. It didn't matter. We've got a plan about what we could stick together. We're just going to crack to this next baby in. And we then he's time to put out the first time I was saying that 𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 amazing. So you heard it. She is brilliant. He's really such a good boss. He's actually left our business now. It is brilliant. And so I came back to work in kind of good space. I came back early. I took less maternity than I had before. And I had 3 months at work. Then I went on maternity again. And then I took another 9 months off. And that brought me back to January of this year when I came back to work again. So it's a really long length of time to have off. You feel like you're missing out on a lot with teams, you know, how they coping, what's happening. And there's guilt coming at you from so many different ways. You're going back to work and being your baby. You're going to work and thinking about one baby. So how you did that? You make yourself all know, yeah. And there's this great phrase that so many mums say to each other, which is, you're expected to work like you don't have children, and then you're expected to have children like you don't go to work. So how do you find that balance? What do you do? How do you do that? But to know you can have it. And you're going through in hand. You just have to be super, super organized, strict to yourself, and put symbols into yourself and people around you. And of course, the support net. I've been so fortunate to work for a kind of being, and it was Kensington at that time. that have just been so, so supportive. Whatever you need, we're there. Just tell us what you need. So yeah, it's been a hard process, but made so much easier by my teams, by my colleagues, and by my boss in my lessons. So yeah,
that's really special, because maybe people listening actually don't have that support around them, maybe. And they might not have an understanding boss or understanding colleagues. And it is tough to go back to a job where you used to be one person, and now that you have children and you're another person. So what are your practical top tips, and maybe these are just what you do? How do you balance who you are as a mum, who you are at work, your boundaries? How do you actually put tangible steps or tools in place to be able to manage that?
Yeah, I guess I had this thing, and everyone kind of laughs, but I have some hard rules, things that you can't break. And I'm really, really fortunate. I'm in a very fortunate position that I have childcare. We have a full-time nanny who is amazing. She's brilliant. The kids love her, and makes you feel so happy that there is someone that you can trust. Some people use nursery, some people are lucky enough to have family. Whatever it is that works for you, just embrace it and believe that. You feel guilty they're not in nursery because they're not interacting enough with other children, maybe, or you feel guilty you're doing this because of X, Y, and Z. So just kind of be happy with your choices and what you've done. But I do have a hard rule between 6 and 7. So this is the nice stage. Where they go to bed at 7 in theory, but most of the time they're going to bed at 7 o'clock if they're done. But if I'm not getting back from work, from working at home and I'm finishing at 6, it's 1 hour I can. And that hour is golden. I don't want to be on my phone. I don't want to be speaking to someone at work or doing emails. I need that time to 100% focus on them. Like we all know in this industry, you can't always be back home at 6 o'clock. So my husband and I always try and make it that it's one of us that are there and that can spend that time with them. Or we do it together, which the kids just absolutely love. That's what we try and do. So that's one of my hard rules. And one of my colleagues, we laugh at the time because he has this thing about pulling me at 10 to 6. And he goes, realize the time. And there's someone screaming, Mom, like, come and help me. So it's just telling everyone, tell people what you want them to know. And it becomes from something I wanted, having this hour, to this is the rule. And this is kind of what we all try and stick to, right? So that's one way.
I love that. Yeah, I think you have to, like you said, you have to tell people, because I think often people want to like try and go home and, it's 10 to 6 and they're like, all right, okay, I better shoot off. And then someone interrupts you and you get angry with them, or you're like frustrated with them. It's like, but they don't know. So definitely make it. I think some people are trying to, but from what the conversations I've had and observations, it's not a judgment, but I think people are trying to have their boundaries without vocally communicating them to the people around them, because they don't want to be seen to try and, because deep down they still think they're actually going home early. So I think what they think is like, oh no, but I'll keep that boundary to myself, and if I get it that day, yay, it's a win. If I have to work till 10 past 6, no one knows, I'll just work till 10 past 6, but actually you've sacrificed your 10 minutes with your children. So I think it's brave, but also very sensible to just talk it out with people and just be really transparent and be like, look, I am working all out all day, but I'm off. I literally clock off at 5:02.
And you mentioned having board talks, and I think that's really important. And I think when you have a baby, you kind of feel like sometimes your natural beacons go to your mom, your partner, your friends, but sometimes if someone hasn't been through that experience in the same way that you have as a mother, it's really hard for someone to understand. And people really try to help. But if you can find that person, if they're at work, for personal life, as a counsellor or whoever it needs to be, or midwife, or whoever was helping you out during your pregnancy, then find that person and take those down from there. And then you'll find yourself in a position one day where you'll be able to help someone else, which is what it's all about, right? About it kind of going round and around. I said before, my employer's always been like so helpful. But I thought I'd mention this story. So talk about mum guilt and coming back into work. when B was 3 weeks old, we had an event at work where I knew we were potentially going to win an award. I really wanted to support my team and kind of everyone that had been involved in this. So I went, and I'll be honest, I can't believe I actually did it. She was 3 weeks old. I'd had a C-section, asked us by. I went into London, had my heels in my bag, which is another story, but I couldn't even get them on. I was like, no, I'm going to stay in flats. It's warm, it's summer, it's absolutely fine. We went, won the award, amazing. Everyone was on this real high. And I was having a conversation with a group of brokers, and Chad came out, and he kind of joined in the conversation and realized I was on maternity. And he said, oh, great. Like, how long have you been off? And I said, well, 3 weeks. I just had the 3 weeks done. He went, oh, don't you feel guilty being here? And I was like, never someone locks you down. Like, they feel like, no, it's just like, pardon? And he said, don't you feel guilty being here? And I was like, no, not really. And I could feel everyone else in this crowd taking a little step back. I'm not a feisty person, but something changes when you I am. And I said, no, I don't. But actually, the reason it affected me is I said, Mummy did feel a bit guilty that I'd left. Don't worry, because this is what we do, right? And he said, who's with the baby? And I went, Dad's looking after her. And he went, oh, high five. He went, high five me. And I was just like, no, that's not okay. Left him kind of hanging there. And I just kind of walked away. Didn't say anything, but more I think about it, I'm told the story a few times. I'm like, am I still angry about this? But I think my thought process is everyone has to learn something when something happened. Be it you, be it that rail curse, whatever it is. If someone learns something, is this a silver lining? And what I learned was, if I ever saw a woman come back from maternity, early, late, whatever it was, I'm just going to tell her she's a rock star. I can't believe you're there. This is amazing. You just support those people, right? Because why wouldn't you? And to be sure that intended to come from this chat, but I was like, is this really the work that we're still in? Because I feel like we're so much more equal in our industry that we honor have been. That there's still that mentality out there and attitude, which was a shame, but definitely getting further forward, but it's still out there. It isn't way.
That is absolutely shocking. And maybe, do you know what? Like, sometimes I do genuinely feel like people mean well and they probably meant no harm whatsoever. And hey, what if their beliefs are what they are? I think their beliefs maybe our mum should be at home with the child, and that's how they've always had it, and that's how they do it in their household. And who are we to tell them that is actually wrong? Because actually we're in a world now that we can't even say anything anymore. Like, we can't say, like, I remember my mum, this is really random, but like, we went to like a vegan cafe. None of us are vegan, but I just like eating in this cafe. And then my mum was like, do you have any normal milk? And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, Mum, you can't actually say normal milk. Because she's like, because like she's never had to say cow's milk. She just says milk. And they were like, do you want coconut milk? Do you want oat milk? Do you want almond milk? She was giving all these milk options. And she was like, just normal milk? So people just take offense to that but she didn't actually mean it as like, you're not normal, I'm normal. But we've got to be careful that, yeah, some people's opinions might be. But in your case, I totally, what I noticed from what you did there is you made it very clear of what your beliefs and thoughts were. You weren't celebrating his beliefs, but you weren't going to come, to meet him and say, look, actually, yeah, high five. Actually, I don't agree with that. This is, and actually, I think that's what people find. Women, I'm going to say women, that's what women struggle with, is that when they're faced with a challenging situation like that, actually, it's hard to speak up and say, yes, no, that's not how we do it in our household, actually.
And you're right, everyone feels vulnerable at some times. I think if I'm just speaking just for someone that's had a baby or come back to work, we're feeling so vulnerable, so vulnerable and so sensitive. It's not bad to talk about hormones and imbalances and everything else, but you're all over the place. You're all over the place, and it can take a light bulb breaking or literally water breaking out somewhere. It's going to have the same effect on you. You're gonna really react to that time. But I guess it's, if you're in that position, you've been there, it's just appreciate how other people may be feeling. You know what, when I was listening to the podcast, and it was Sally, she said, I'd love to put everyone in a boardroom, and if you're going through the menopause, and put the itching powder on them, turn up the heat, crank it up, and give you some value or something. Well, it's just like, he really good with these all being each other's positions at one time. So we really understand how that feels and how we can help people feel better, basically.
Yes, I know. I remember that. So Sally and I used to work together. She's just such a fantastic leader, person. Yeah, she really did speak quite candidly about the menopause. And our other guests have on the show as well, actually. But let's face it, we're not actually going to ever truly feel each other's emotions, and we're never going to truly feel what it's like to be in each other's shoes. We just have to learn to work together with them, right? And really empathize and acknowledge everyone else's position, whether, be it female, male, whatever gender they identify as, or age, because that comes into it, how you feel at 20 versus how you feel at 40 versus how you feel at 65. Like, there's so many elements. And actually, that was something that I used to get really... almost, I had to be embarrassed to be the youngest person in the room. I was made to feel like, oh yeah, but that's because you're what are you, Roz? Like 25. And at the time I was like, but why are you saying that in front of a room full of, I'm here just as in the same position as you. We have the same job title. But like they used to make out like my age was, something that needed to be mentioned. And I was just like, okay, that's inappropriate. So yeah, it's basically coming across those situations and actually having a frank conversation and not having to apologize and just being like, sorry, not even sorry, just automatically, I just say it as a word, but it's like, I don't agree with that. No, that's not how we do things. But and
it's how you say things, right? And how you position things in those things. And I think going through, if you look through kind of your career path, my career, most of them, we've been in different situations at different times, dealing with age, gender, maybe personality, more than anything. And my name being France come across as quite confusing. So a lot of people in the roles that I've done have assumed when I'm coming, this is before, video, Zoom, whatever, is that I'm probably like a middle to older aged man, being Frances, and a lot of people would spell my name in the Basquiat way. And then I turn up and like, huh? And they're just like, where's Frances? I'm like, no, that's
no.
Yeah. But I've learned to embrace that now. And actually I kind of really think I'm the older chaff that you're expecting to turn up. Just turn it into humor, right? And
that's hilarious.
Win some hearts and minds that way.
Definitely. Yeah. And again, casual mistake, the way names are spelt, like when you see the name Alex, do you automatically assume it's a girl? Do you think it's a boy? But actually on that conversation, we're still stuck in financial services speaking about the men and the women, but in the world we're speaking about gender neutral, non-binary, and it's like, actually, why are we assuming that Alex is a girl or a boy? Like, that's not the only option anymore, right? So yeah, we need to also be mindful of that and catch up.
Yeah, definitely. I talk about characters a lot as opposed to men and women, because it's a character at the end of the day that you may or may not clash with. But I said before, I'm in a really unique position at Kensington where my boss is female, and every one of my peers in the senior leadership, in my team personally, I have women. So it's actually very women dominated, which actually it's kind of flipped the other way. Sometimes you want a different perspective in. Our CEO's a man, and he's kind of surrounded himself with these women, and he jokes about it quite a lot, saying how opposite to the industry we are now. But it's a brilliant place to work, but it's great just having a dynamic team and having that mix. I mentioned that with Sheldon anyway earlier, and I've got just brilliant how everyone thinks differently.
Yes, and this is why I have Adam to thank for connecting us, because I've known Adam for as long as I've been in the industry, pretty much. And he saw my posts about the Money Honey, and he recommended you and was like, oh my gosh, you absolutely need to have Frances on the show. And I was like, yeah, she sounds super awesome and cool because he highlighted how there are a lot of women in your company and a lot of women leaders. And so I really wanted to highlight that on the show, that whilst from a bird's eye point of view, we might walk into a room, a mortgage event or, you know, an awards ceremony, and actually there's a lot of men, there are teams that are becoming much more diverse and really making that effort into, you know, elevating talent rather than gender. So yeah. So as your closing comments, right, I can't believe, you know, half an hour's flown by, but you are welcome back any other time. I just wanted to give you an opportunity for you to address the audience, whoever that one person. Imagine that there's just one listener right now listening to you, and they're a mum, or maybe they're pregnant, maybe they are thinking about getting pregnant, and they've got that fear of maybe having that stopgap in their career. Maybe they have had a bit of a challenge at work with someone not being so flexible. What would you say to that one person listening?
You know, I guess I'll go back to that time that understands what you've been through and some kind of talk you through all those different scenarios. There's so many different things. When I think about coming back to work, I pretty much had 18 months off. The day I got back, it's like I never left. People come back to you and ask you questions like you were there the day before and that you haven't had 18 months off. And actually, as kind of hard that makes it, because you're kind of forced straight back in, is brilliant. No one thinks you know less than you did when you were then. And actually, so much more about yourself and your values and how they change from having children. You're a bigger person now. You're more rounded in such a different way than you would have been before. So just use that for good. Definitely.
I love that. I love the fact that actually having given birth or being pregnant, most women say how, yes, they were mature before, but how they've matured with their emotions, their mindset, you know, their values. So it's the person you are becoming as well. So don't dwell on the person you used to be. Actually be proud and embrace the person you now are, and embrace like this new version of you is what I'm getting from you. Is that right?
And they talk about that when you go on these kind of NCT courses, like, you know, you need time for yourself, you need to do all of these things, etc. You get to the time, but you forget everything anyone's ever told you about advice about what you should do. But yeah, you are going to change. You can't, all that's okay. And it's almost like the first few months of my maternity, you're fighting being this person, this mum and this changed person. But the best thing you can do and the best way to use your energy is just to let go. Just let it be. What's happening around you is happening around you. Embrace it. And I speak to my team about this a lot, but we use so much energy thinking about things that we don't like, thinking that things... But actually, if you just let that go, firstly, you feel better, you perform better, and everyone around you gets that effect as well. And that's for the kids at home. If I come back stressed, I'll finish on this actually. So someone said, do you feel guilty for exercising alone and being away from your children? And they said, and absolutely not. I feel guilty when I shout at my children and I'm not engaged with them. And so that's it. It's you do need to focus on yourself, and that's not actually being selfish. It's actually being more selfless than you were before. So,
as the saying goes, Frances, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right? Absolutely.
So I love that as your closing comment, because it's about channeling your energy in the right way so that you can serve more, so that you fill yourself up to a point where you've got so much to give, everybody receives more.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this show and you felt like you received value from what Frances has shared, please remember to like the post, to like the show, and to subscribe. But do not be afraid. I'm sure Frances will welcome you too as well. Do not be afraid to reach out and just simply say thank you. so many of my listeners get random messages, not listeners, sorry, so many of my speakers who have been on the show message me saying, I've had a message from someone saying that they've listened to the show and that it really helps them. So please just, if you did get value from this, you can connect with Frances. I imagine LinkedIn is good for you.
Yeah, LinkedIn's fine.
Perfect. So if you want to follow more about Frances's journey and also more about what the team at Kensington and Barclays are doing, like how are they getting it so right with, you know, so many women at leadership level and such a diverse team, please do follow them as well, just to see what it is that they're doing. But Frances, you've been an amazing money honey. Thank you so much for spending today with me.
You're all welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.